better, DVDs or digital copies? So let's talk about which one just in general and what is kind of like the advantages, a little bit of both. Now, I was in this movie store and somebody was kind of saying, this shit is going to kind of be extinct in a couple of years. And granted, I almost kind of had a sad look in my face, but also wanted to slap that guy silly because he's trying to ruin my movie, buying experience. But then again, he's very much right. Even though nostalgia, I love DVDs just in general, there are going to be eventually a dying breed. But to me personally, I feel like DVDs still have that advantage over some digital media just in general. So let's talk about this thing right here. For one, DVDs I feel like have a very big emotional core to some people just in general compared to digital copies. When you buy a DVD, it gives you a sense of accomplishment, right? Especially if you're a collector or whatever it may be. Like I do, I buy a movie probably every once a week from a movie store, and I essentially find something that I've been dying to find, and I'd be like, yes, I finally found it. You essentially feel like you accomplished something, like beating a good video game boss battle, right? The thing about it is that when you kind of find something that you've been hunting down for quite some time, you remember that day. It leaves a lasting impression. Whether somebody has given you that DVD and you finally get it, a game or whatever it may be, and you finally get it, that leaves a lasting impression on you because you remember that day specifically. And whether it be a good day or a bad day, it lives a very impactful moment. Whether digital is just like, I just click on anything, whatever it may be. Now, granted, some people could probably be like, well, I really don't feel like buying, DVDs. DVDs are a lot more, more pricey for the most part sometimes, and it's just kind of more annoying to kind of like get up and, go to a store or whatever when I could just do it from, on demand or whatever it may be. And that's the problem with kind of this generation just in general, is that it tends to be a little bit too lazy for its own good. You can't get up and go to a store. Come on, get your fat ass up, start walking and losing some pounds, right? So for one, you could look at it like this. You could also be like, well, they don't want to put it inside the DVD player. That's kind of quite annoying. Look, I think that's the thing about it, and sometimes people could also add on to the fact that, they leave scratches or whatever it may be. The thing about it is, though, I feel like previous generation just in general for like DVDs, people that were in full DVD era, right? It's just that I feel like they had a little bit more discipline, because I feel like the new generation of kids, if they would have this just fully, they wouldn't even be able to keep them shits in contact. So I feel like a lot of people that had DVDs or whatever it may be, right, they managed to keep them very clean without scratches, whatever it may be, and it added a little bit of a discipline, because it's like you're taking care of a child and you kept them very much intact. So therefore I feel like that's kind of what keeping a DVD kind of means, especially if you keep them in contact. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely guilty of it, of like keeping DVDs kind of scratched up. And you kind of put a wet wipe or a little spit and clean it, and then they never work just in general. But I think it adds a little bit of a sense of discipline to like keep some of these DVDs in contact. Where some of these kids with digital stuff, they can easily just put it in and out, and there's no real way to like look at it. They're not being responsible, whatever it may be. It's easy to just do that. Now, granted, the next thing I pretty much just say is just bad connection just in general. Now, granted, I know some of these streaming services or whatever it may be, and that's the digital age that we live in. Look, that's also fun. It's very easy and it's very convenient for some people. You also got to realize that what if your connection sucks? What if you're in the middle of something you pay $15 for the most part, on demand, and then therefore it just doesn't work because your internet connection kind of sucks. You're just kind of left there doing nothing. At least for a DVD, you can actually take it out and clean it, and therefore you can actually solve the problem. But then what about refunds? You can't really do a refund for a digital copy, can you? Because if you can, then let me know, because I didn't know that. But just in general, so that kind of adds an interesting aspect just to begin with. The next thing you could probably be like is features, right? I like my features on a DVD or even a Blu-ray for the most part, but I like my features on a DVD. And a lot of digital copies, you don't get that shit. You just get the movie, and then that's kind of it. And that's not really fun. I like to see some of the behind-the-scenes footage. I like to see some of the trailers that from other movies that came out during that year. I like seeing that. When you can't do that for a DVD, digital pretty much copy, that's all you kind of get, and it essentially feels like a bootleg. And that just kind of sometimes sucks. Now, overall, I do agree that, most of the stuff that gets put on DVD or whatever it may be, is that they don't necessarily get transferred over to digital, right? And that's the main big problem, is that I feel like a lot of these kids these days, they're not going to experience some of these classics. There's some classic like Godfather or Wizard of Oz that's on Blu-ray, whatever it may be, but a lot of them are not on, digital, whatever it may be, and you can't essentially see them. And I think that's a big problem. There's a lot of cool classic cult films that are still on DVD and even on Blu-ray for the most part, and when they kind of go away, you're not going to get them on the digital, because by that time, there's going to be so many people that are like, into the future, to the point where they're not looking into the past to bring some of that shit forward. They're just looking forward into the future, pretty much, in the present. So that's kind of like what really sucks, because I think a lot of these kids are just not going to really be able to see some of these classics, and therefore that's going to kind of suck for this generation, because there's a lot of good movies out there that won't be transferred over to digital. Now, overall, I think this can really go either way. I think it's going to suck when it does kind of happen, because then you're going to kind of feel like, because I experienced when VHSs kind of like died out, and that was a very sad thing to see, because there was a lot of cool movies on VHSs and shit that I like recorded that I couldn't really transfer over much, and that was a sad day. So it's going to be very sad when DVDs kind of go like that. So My question for you people is just like this, right? What do you actually prefer? Now, granted, I know things are going to happen regardless, but what do you actually prefer? Do you actually prefer to kind of have that very old school mentality and have a funness to kind of like a DVD, seeing your DVD and seeing the cover adds a little bit of an excitement to it? Or do you just prefer getting a digital copy and just kind of like making it very simple and easy for you to do? So what do you prefer? Do you prefer digital? Do you prefer physical copies? Let me know, whether it be games, movies, whatever it may be, but let me know. And comment, subscribe, and like if you actually enjoyed this video. I'm Chris Smith, and I'm signing out.